Killers of the Flower Moon is a movie that went through a major rewrite during pre-production, and for good reason. Legendary director Martin Scorsese, who co-wrote the film with the Oscar-winning Eli Roth, originally set out to make a film that focused on federal agents as they investigate the killing of numerous members of the Osage Nation in the early 1900s. These true-life events are sometimes referred to as the Reign of Terror. In meeting with members of the present-day Osage Nation, Scorsese realized that it would be better to focus on the more personal elements of these tragedies, and also avoid diving into the white savior trope in the process. What resulted is a story that focuses not on federal agents, although some do play a role in the film, but rather the real-life story of the historic man Ernest Buckhart, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and his Native American wife Molly, played by Lily Gladstone. In the film, Ernest comes home from serving in World War I when he goes to stay with his uncle, a rancher named William King Hale, played by the incomparable Robert De Niro, who lives in Oklahoma's Osage County. King portrays himself as a friend to the Osage people, when in reality he has some truly twisted intentions. At the time the movie takes place, the Osage people had recently become wealthy after discovering oil on their land. The film depicts a bustling and vibrant town full of well-to-do Osage people, some of which are dressed up in full early 1900s Great Gatsby-esque garb. And by the way, I did love the costumes in this film. There's one notable scene where a wealthy Osage couple is shopping for a car, and the white salesman gets down on his hands and knees and pleads for them to purchase a vehicle so he can help support his family. This image of wealthy Native Americans in the early 1900s clashes with the typical image that we see in cinema of Native American people. But this also parallels the wealth Black Americans around the time period in Tulsa, Oklahoma experienced in Black Wall Street. Unfortunately, as the movie shows, just as in Tulsa, this wealth was short-lived for the Osage people too. Ernest's uncle plots to murder members of the Osage tribe and steal their wealth, and recruits his nephew to marry into an influential Osage family that holds many of the oil rights. Ernest is then manipulated by his uncle along a dark path, torn between the love for his wife and children, while simultaneously being an accomplice and even a participant to violent acts. It goes without saying that this movie is grim, and at 3.5 hours, this is a movie that demands something from its audience. It's a film that asks for your attention, but it earns it too. As director of Killers of the Flower Moon, Scorsese demonstrates what made him a Hollywood legend, a meticulous devotion to the craft of filmmaking. The late Robbie Robertson's unsuspecting score drives tension throughout the film. Much of the film's exposition is told through a series of newsreels that are displayed in an old movie theater, a clever way to get through some important historical context. And the production relied upon a whole range of consultants from the Osage Nation, which gives the film layers of authenticity in its presentation of their culture. But let's not forget Leonardo DiCaprio and Lily Gladstone's performances, which truly anchor the film. DiCaprio transforms into his character, fake teeth and all. Gladstone conveys a range of emotions throughout the film with the most subtle of facial expressions. She always has a look on her face like she's pondering something, but she just isn't saying it. In only a few glances, she can express everything from love and bemusement to sadness and despair. And let's get real, if she doesn't get a nomination for Best Actress at the Oscars, just cancel the ceremony altogether. So yes, it's a long story, but like listening to a compelling true crime podcast, you will hang on every word of this film until its chilling climax. The film dares to grapple with America's history of violence against Native Americans, a subject some people frankly would rather not have us talk about at all. Case in point, the nonfiction book on which the film is based was challenged in Oklahoma public schools because of a recent law that limits how public schools can talk about race in the classroom. And it should be noted that one of the Osage Nation consultants on this film did express some criticism when interviewed at the movie's premiere, saying he felt the film focused on empathizing too much with DiCaprio's character. a point I think is fair. For me, it was really Lily Gladstone's performance as Molly that anchored the heart of the film. I wish there was perhaps a little more emphasis on her and less on Ernest. But ultimately, when it comes to discussion of the depiction of real-life tragedies of indigenous people, the most important voices in this conversation are people that are themselves indigenous or members of the Osage Nation. For that reason, I will be including some links to reviews and interviews from indigenous critics and journalists in the description of this video. At the very least, I think this film is a tool that can get people to engage with history and grapple with the dark truths of our past. It's powerful, it's gut-wrenching, and a must-see. I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. You can watch Killers of the Flower Moon in theaters right now or on Apple TV Plus after its theatrical run.